Welcome back to my channel, Garden Well, Eat Well. You know, every year there's one plant that lands on almost every gardener's list, and I'm sure it's on yours too. It's the inspiring tomato. And if you're as passionate about gardening as I am, I'll bet you started your plants back in early spring or maybe even a little bit earlier. Probably just using one of these standard cell packs too. And no doubt, you have them growing under some lights or outside in a cold frame, or greenhouse, or maybe even just on the windowsill. We want them to reach a good transplant size so they can be put outside and start to really grow properly. But if you started them too early, there's always that chance that the weather will refuse to cooperate. You know, it seems that every year lately, there's always a surprise cold spell or unexpected snowfall after the last frost date, and your plants could be seriously stunted or damaged if you were to put them out in the ground too soon. So while you wait for those guarantees from the weather, what's happening to your seedlings? Well, the plants don't want to wait. They want to keep growing. They're going to continue spreading their roots through that small bit of soil that they've got. And as they grow larger, they're going to demand that you give them more and more water and nutrients. The roots will start to get so thick that it may look like there are more roots than soil. They could start circling around at the bottom of the cell pack or even growing out of the pot entirely. This is called being root bound. At this point, the soil can't hold enough water to meet the demands of the plant. The roots are pulling all the moisture out of the soil so quickly that you'll need to water it a couple times a day. If you don't, the obvious symptoms you'll see are that the leaves become droopy and the top of the soil always seems to be on the dry side. As well, the nutrition in the soil has now been exhausted, and you'll have to start adding fertilizer to make sure that the plant still gets what it needs. The plant will let you know this. Its leaves won't be as lush and green as they once were. They'll be paler and even starting to turn yellow. But even if you do provide some extra water and fertilizer, the roots may be so tightly packed that the plant will still show distress and its growth will slow way down. And if it's in distress too long, this can set the plant back and it can take a few weeks to fully recover. What you really need to think about is repotting them. And it's called potting up. This is simply taking them out of the cell packs and replanting them into larger pots using enriched soil. It will invigorate your plants and they'll definitely show improvement very quickly. You'll get them growing healthy and strong again until it's time to put them in the ground. So let's take a look at some examples. And just to let you know, all the plants I'm going to show you, they're all the same age. I started them all at the same time. So with these two, the larger one was repotted about 10 days ago. It's obvious that it has done well after repotting as it's grown much larger, looks much healthier, and is growing very vigorously. And if we compare the root balls, the cell pack is root bound as we expected. Even though the transplant took place almost 2 weeks ago, the roots have traveled through most of the soil and are already pulling the nutrients from the entire pot. They're even circling around the bottom of it now. This is looking very healthy, and if we had to let it stay in this pot for an extended period, we would probably have to pot this one up again. So let's try repotting one. First, select a new container to use. We need something that is at least twice the diameter of the small root ball. We can use a standard pot to do the transplant, or you could just use a large plastic cup. Just make sure to use a large nail to punch some holes in the bottom for drainage. Now take the cell pack. First, squeeze the sides of it a little to help release its grip on the roots. Gently pull the plant out. Now you should scratch up the roots a bit on the sides. This will help to direct the roots to grow into the new soil more quickly. So the soil I have here is compost. You can also use potting soil with some balanced fertilizer added to it. Start adding some to the bottom of the pot. Then add further soil around the seedling. press it down and firm it up. When you're done repotting them, make sure to give them plenty of water so the roots don't get stressed. Now, with tomatoes, you don't have to worry about planting them too deeply. You can put them down as far as you want. The tomato stem will actually form roots if it's buried. But not all plants can do this. This is just a special ability with tomatoes. So there you have it. It didn't take very long at all to do the work. Potting up will ensure that your tomatoes continue to grow vigorously, so you'll get a good jump on the season. When you finally place them in the garden, the rewards will be well worth that little bit of effort. If you found this video useful and informative, please help me out by giving me a thumbs up and press that subscribe button. Share this with all your friends and let me know how potting up works for you. Thanks again for watching. When you garden well, you'll eat well.